modified food starch, high fructose corn syrup, and chemical preservatives banned by Whole Foods, all hiding in mayonnaise jars Americans have trusted for decades. But open the wrong one, and what you're eating is water thickened with cornstarch, sweetened with syrup, and held together by gums your grandmother never heard of. If you've been buying the same brand for 10, 20, 30 years, all of it has been going into your body. I'm counting down 9 to throw out, and 8 that earned your trust, based on FDA ingredient standards and class action lawsuits. Starting with the jar nearly every kitchen has. The 9 to throw out. Number 9. Miracle Whip. Miracle Whip showed up at the 1933 World's Fair in Chicago, introduced by the Kraft Phoenix Cheese Corporation as a cheaper alternative to mayonnaise during the Depression. And that last part is important. Cheaper alternative to mayonnaise, not mayonnaise itself. The FDA has never classified Miracle Whip as mayonnaise. Under Federal Code 21 CFR 169.140, anything sold as mayonnaise in the United States must contain at least 65% vegetable oil by weight, along with egg yolk and vinegar or lemon juice. Miracle Whip does not come close. Its first ingredient is water. After that comes soybean oil, in a quantity well below the 65% threshold, then high fructose corn syrup and modified food starch. Kraft Heinz is legally required to market it as a dressing. Look at the label on the jar in your refrigerator right now. It does not say mayonnaise anywhere. It says dressing. Your grandmother may have used it her whole life. She was never eating mayo. That was a labeling trick hiding in plain sight. But labeling is not the only trick in the condiment aisle. Number 8. Kraft Light Mayo. Pick up a jar of Kraft Light Mayo and flip it around. The first ingredient listed is water. Not oil, not eggs. Water. After that, you will find soybean oil, then vinegar, then modified food starch, sugar, and maltodextrin. Kraft prints a small asterisk next to several of these ingredients, and down at the bottom of the label, in tiny type, it reads ingredient not normally found in mayonnaise. That is the company's own admission, printed right there on the product. Modified food starch is a low-cost thickener used to fake the texture of an oil-based emulsion without using enough oil. Maltodextrin is a processed carbohydrate filler derived from corn. Phosphoric acid replaces the lemon juice you would find in real mayo, and potassium sorbate extends the shelf life. None of those ingredients were in your grandmother's recipe. Kraft is not hiding this. They marked it with asterisks. The question is whether anyone ever reads them. So what happens when you swap the word light for the word olive oil and hope nobody notices? Number 7. Hellmann's Light Mayo. Hellmann's Light follows the same formula. Water is the first ingredient. Then soybean oil. Then modified food starch made from corn and potato. Then sorbic acid. Hellmann's prints the same kind of fine print Kraft does, noting that several ingredients are not found in regular mayonnaise. That phrase appears on their own label. When Hellmann's says 60% less fat, what they mean is 60% less of the one ingredient that actually makes mayonnaise what it is: oil. To replace it, they add water and thicken the mixture with starches and gums until it feels creamy in your mouth. It looks like mayo. It spreads like mayo. But the emulsion that defines real mayonnaise, the one your grandmother made by slowly drizzling oil into egg yolks, is barely present. Calcium disodium EDTA, a chemical preservative that Whole Foods has banned from every product on its shelves, rounds out the list. 60% less fat also means 60% less real. If you enjoyed this video so far, tap that subscribe button and hit the bell so you do not miss the rest of this countdown. Now, here is where the labels get truly creative. Number 6. Hellmann's with olive oil. This one is worth paying close attention to. Hellmann's sells a product with prominent green packaging, 2 olives on a branch, and the words "with olive oil" on the front of the jar. A class action lawsuit filed against Unilever in New York federal court in 2022 alleged that this labeling misleads consumers into believing the product contains a meaningful amount of olive oil. It does not. The ingredients list reveals that soybean oil is the dominant oil. Olive oil appears after it, in a quantity the lawsuit described as far less than consumers would expect. This product is not even labeled mayonnaise. Look closely and you will see the word dressing in smaller type. It also contains modified potato starch, sorbic acid, and calcium disodium EDTA. The green packaging and olive imagery suggest something your grandmother might drizzle over a salad. What is actually inside the jar is a soybean oil-based dressing with a trace of olive oil and a list of additives. A second class action making similar claims was filed in 2026. 3 oils, 2 lawsuits, and a label designed to distract you. But Kraft has its own version of that same trick. Number 5. Kraft Mayo with olive oil reduced fat. Kraft's olive oil mayonnaise follows the same playbook. Water is the first ingredient, then olive oil, canola oil, and soybean oil in that order. 3 different oils, and only one of them is the olive oil featured on the label. After the oils come modified food starch, eggs, sugar, phosphoric acid, and potassium sorbate. Kraft prints the asterisk again. Ingredient not normally found in mayonnaise. The problem is not just the additives. The problem is the math. At 50 calories per serving with half the fat of regular mayo, this product does not contain anywhere near 65% oil by weight. That means it cannot legally be called mayonnaise, which is why the label says reduced fat. Reduced fat is the quiet legal workaround. It tells you the product does not meet the FDA standard. If it did, they would call it mayonnaise and leave it at that. That quiet workaround keeps the product legal. But in 2015, one company skipped the workaround entirely. Number 4. Just Mayo. In 2013, a San Francisco startup called Hampton Creek launched a product called Just Mayo. The jar featured an egg on the label. The word mayo was right there in the name. There was one problem. It contained no eggs. 0. The product used canola oil and pea protein instead. On August 12, 2015, the FDA sent a warning letter to Hampton Creek CEO Joshua Tetrick, declaring the product misbranded under Section 403 of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. The letter stated that Just Mayo purports to be the standardized food mayonnaise, but does not qualify under 21 CFR 169.140 because it lacks egg yolk-containing ingredients. The FDA also flagged nutrient content claims on the label that the product did not meet. Hampton Creek eventually changed the label, and the company rebranded as Just. But for over 2 years, millions of jars were sold under a name that directly violated federal food law. An egg on the label of a product with no egg inside. I mean, think about that for a second. Number 3. Hellmann's Vegan Carefully Crafted Dressing. This one does not pretend to be mayonnaise, and Hellmann's deserves credit for calling it a dressing right on the label. But it sits in the mayo aisle next to the real Hellmann's in nearly identical packaging, and plenty of shoppers reach for it thinking they are getting a healthier version of the same product. They are not. The ingredients include modified food starch, modified potato starch, and calcium disodium EDTA. There are no eggs. Under the FDA standard, no eggs means it cannot be mayonnaise, period. The modified starches serve the same purpose they do in the light versions. They replace the oil and egg emulsion with a starch-thickened paste that mimics the texture. Hellmann's parent company Unilever markets this product as non-GMO and cage-free. Those claims apply to ingredients like canola oil and are beside the point. Without eggs, without 65% oil, this is a flavored spread sharing shelf space with real mayo and borrowing its reputation. That was a starch and water imitation sitting in the mayo aisle. Another one has been doing the same thing for over 30 years. Number 2. Follow Your Heart. Vegenaise. Follow Your Heart has been selling Vegenaise since 1988, and it has built a loyal following among people who avoid eggs. The base is expeller-pressed canola oil, and the emulsifier is soy protein instead of egg yolk. It contains brown rice syrup, apple cider vinegar, and lemon juice. The label does not call it mayonnaise, and the company has never claimed that it is. But Vegenaise is shelved in the mayo section of nearly every grocery store in the country, and it is marketed as a direct substitute. The texture is close. The color is close. The squeeze bottle looks like every other mayo on the shelf. For anyone scanning quickly, the distinction is easy to miss. Under federal law, this product cannot be called mayonnaise. It has no eggs and does not meet the oil content standard. It may be a perfectly fine sandwich spread, but it is not mayo, and if you have been using it as though it were, you have been eating something fundamentally different from what your grandmother put on the table. Bad to good transition. That is 9 jars that do not qualify as real mayonnaise under federal standards. Some fail on oil content, some fail on eggs, some fail on both, and several use packaging designed to make you think otherwise. But not every brand in the mayo aisle is playing games. 8 of the 17 I investigated are the real thing, and the differences between them come down to ingredients your grandmother would actually recognize. The 8 you can trust. Number 8. Kraft Real Mayo. This might surprise you after everything I just said about Kraft, but the regular Kraft Real Mayo, not the light version, not the olive oil version, is technically real mayonnaise. It meets the FDA's 65% oil requirement. It contains eggs and vinegar. However, Kraft also adds calcium disodium, EDTA, potassium sorbate, phosphoric acid, and what they label natural flavors, which tells you almost nothing about what is actually in the jar. Kraft prints that same asterisk here too, noting that several of those ingredients are not normally found in mayonnaise. The soybean oil is likely from genetically modified crops, since more than 90% of soybeans grown in the United States are GMO. And unlike traditional recipes that use lemon juice for acidity, Kraft substitutes phosphoric acid, a synthetic compound more commonly associated with soft drinks. It qualifies as real mayo by the letter of the law. It hits the minimum. But if you are looking for a clean ingredient list, this is the bottom of the trust ladder. It earns the label. It does not earn enthusiasm. Real mayo by definition, but with a list of additives your grandmother would not recognize. Additives are one thing. What you leave out of the jar tells you even more. Number 7. Hellmann's Real Mayonnaise. Hellmann's Real Mayonnaise is the best-selling mayo in the United States, and it meets every requirement of the FDA standard. Soybean oil is the first ingredient, followed by water, whole eggs and egg yolks, distilled vinegar, salt, sugar, and lemon juice concentrate. It qualifies, but it also contains calcium, disodium, EDTA, which Whole Foods has banned from all products sold in its stores. And natural flavors appears at the end of the list, a catch-all term the FDA allows manufacturers to use without specifying what it actually contains. In 2014, Green America published a report noting that Hellmann's is nothing like the product offered 100 years ago. The soybean oil is the same GMO concern as Kraft. The eggs are cage-free, which Hellmann's promotes on the label, though cage-free standards require very little actual space per bird. Hellmann's is real mayo. It has been real mayo since Richard Hellmann opened his deli in New York in 1905. Whether the current formula lives up to that history is a different question. An ingredient list that goes back over a century, but with a few additions along the way. One Southern brand decided 100 years ago to leave the additions out. Number 6. Duke's Real Mayonnaise. Eugenia Duke started making sandwiches in Greenville, South Carolina in 1917, selling them to soldiers at Camp Sevier during World War I. The mayo she put on those sandwiches had no sugar. Over 100 years later, Duke's Real Mayonnaise still has no sugar. It is the only major American mayo brand that can make that claim. The ingredient list is soybean oil, egg yolks, not whole eggs, water, distilled and cider vinegar, salt, oleoresin paprika, natural flavors, and calcium disodium, EDTA. The use of egg yolks instead of whole eggs gives Duke's a denser, creamier texture than most national brands. The apple cider vinegar gives it what the company calls its twang. Duke's does still contain calcium disodium, EDTA, and natural flavors. So the ingredient list is not perfectly clean, but the absence of sugar, the use of only yolks, and a recipe that has stayed remarkably close to its 1917 origins make it a meaningful step above the two brands below it. No sugar for over 100 years. But across the Pacific, one brand took a completely different approach to what mayonnaise could be. Number 5. Kewpie Japanese Mayonnaise. Kewpie was created in 1925 by Toichiro Nakashima after he tasted American mayonnaise on a trip to the United States and decided he could make it better. He was right. Kewpie uses only egg yolks, never whole eggs, and replaces distilled vinegar with rice vinegar for a milder, slightly sweet acidity. The Japanese version contains monosodium glutamate, which gives it the deep umami flavor the brand is known for. The American version sold in the United States swaps MSG for yeast extract. Neither version contains high fructose corn syrup, modified food starch, or artificial preservatives. The ingredient list on the imported Japanese bottle is short: vegetable oil, egg yolk, vinegar, salt, MSG, spice, and natural flavor. You will not find calcium disodium, EDTA, gums, or starches anywhere on it. Kewpie is real mayonnaise by any standard, American or Japanese, and its 100-year-old recipe has stayed close to the original. It is also proof that you do not need a dozen additives to keep mayo on a shelf. 6 ingredients and no chemical preservatives. That same simplicity shows up in a brand your grocery store probably shelves right beside the big national names, even though it has been a Gulf Coast staple since before World War II. Number 4. Blue Plate Real Mayonnaise. Blue Plate has been made in New Orleans since 1927. It is the house mayo of the Gulf South, showing up on po' boy sandwiches and in crawfish dip from Mississippi to the Texas coast. The recipe uses soybean oil, whole eggs and egg yolks, distilled vinegar, water, salt, sugar, lemon juice concentrate, calcium, disodium, EDT, and natural flavor. The ingredient list is similar to Hellmann's, and Blue Plate does still contain EDTA and natural flavors. So why is it ranked higher? Because Blue Plate has never released a light version padded with starches or a misleading olive oil spin-off designed to trade on health trends. One product, one recipe. Nearly 100 years of consistency. In a market where the big national brands have fractured into a dozen sublines, each one cutting corners in a different way, there is something worth respecting about a company that just makes mayo and sells it. One recipe, no spin-offs. So what happens when a company drops the soybean oil entirely and builds a mayonnaise around a fat your grandmother probably never cooked with? Number 3. Sir Kensington's Avocado Oil Mayonnaise. Sir Kensington's was founded in 2010 in New York and acquired by Unilever in 2017. Their avocado oil mayo uses 100% avocado oil instead of soybean or canola. The full ingredients are avocado oil, organic cage-free egg yolks, organic distilled white vinegar, organic lime juice, salt, organic black pepper, and organic rosemary extract. You will not find calcium, disodium, EDTA, modified food starch, or natural flavors, hiding unnamed compounds anywhere on the label. Every ingredient is something you could buy at a grocery store and use in your own kitchen. The avocado oil is significant because it is a monounsaturated fat, the same kind found in olive oil, rather than the polyunsaturated soybean oil that dominates the conventional mayo market. Dietitians at the Ochsner Health System have recommended avocado oil mayonnaise as a cleaner alternative. It costs more than Hellmann's. It costs more than Duke's, but the ingredient list is something you can actually read and understand, and that is worth the difference. Clean ingredients with a price to match. The next brand delivers the same approach for a few dollars less. Number 2. Chosen Foods. Avocado Oil Mayo. Chosen Foods makes their mayo with 100% pure avocado oil, cage-free eggs, organic vinegar, sea salt, organic mustard, organic rosemary extract, and an organic spice blend. The total ingredient count is under 10. There is no sugar, no calcium disodium EDTA, no soybean oil, no canola oil, and no mystery natural flavors. The company holds non-GMO project verification, Whole30 approval, and is certified glyphosate residue-free, which means the ingredients were tested for traces of the herbicide commonly sprayed on conventional soybean and canola crops. That last certification matters because the soybean oil in most conventional mayo comes from crops treated with exactly that herbicide. Chosen Foods is not the cheapest jar on the shelf, but for a mayonnaise with no chemical preservatives, no seed oils, and a short list of ingredients you can pronounce, it is one of the best values in the clean mayo category. Short ingredient list, 0 seed oils, and independently verified. But one brand took that standard and stripped it down even further. Number 1. Primal Kitchen. Avocado Oil. Mayo. 6 ingredients. Avocado oil, organic eggs, organic egg yolks, organic vinegar, sea salt, and organic rosemary extract. That is the entire list. You will not find sugar, seed oils, EDTA, mystery, natural flavors, gums, starches, or emulsifiers anywhere on it. Primal Kitchen is the #1 selling natural mayo brand in American grocery stores, according to Spin's retail data through June 2025. The company holds certified humane status for its eggs, non-GMO project verification, and is approved for Whole30, paleo, and keto diets. The avocado oil is cold-pressed from the fruit itself, not extracted with chemical solvents the way soybean and canola oils typically are. The rosemary extract serves as a natural antioxidant, replacing the calcium disodium, EDTA, that conventional brands rely on to extend shelf life. When you compare this jar to a jar of Hellmann's or Kraft, you are looking at the difference between a recipe and a formula. One was designed in a kitchen, the other was engineered in a lab. Your grandmother made mayo with oil, eggs, and vinegar. That is exactly what is in this jar. Nothing more. Flip the jar over and read the ingredients. If water is listed first or you see modified food starch, you are not eating real mayonnaise. The FDA wrote the definition in 1957. Only 8 of these 17 brands actually meet it. If you want to know which cooking oils hide the same secrets, that video is on screen now.